In this video, we're going to show you how to plan out a football practice. And by the end of this video, we're going to give you a free template that you can use and you'll know exactly how to plan out a football practice. All right, so this is the practice plan that we're going to be working off of. And please don't be overwhelmed. We're going to walk through every single thing. This is work for youth. It's work for high school and college as well. It's a script that I think you can morph into your own, but we're going to walk you through step by step. That way, again, you don't feel overwhelmed. 3 things that we want to cover before we even get started, okay? First things first, you got to trust your coaches. If you're a head coach watching this, offensive, defense coordinator watching this, give coaches assignments to own a position group. So for instance, if I'm coaching the wide receivers and I have stock blocking that I want to work on, give your coach the leverage to go find stock blocking drills to actually work on. If you're someone that just likes to delegate and say, you do this, you do this, you do this, coaches aren't going to feel ownership. And oftentimes you're just going to build bag holders. You're not actually going to build coaches. That's the first thing we want to mention. The second thing is stick to the script. If the script says 10 minutes, make sure you have someone who's designated to blow the whistle or to rotate the periods after 10 minutes. If you let this drag into 15 minutes, if you let 5 minutes drag into 10 minutes, all of a sudden your practice is going to be 3 hours long and your parents are going to be pulling their hair out because they want to get their kid home. Okay? So again, try to stick to the script and try to make sure that you're out at a reasonable time. Third thing we want to highlight is just the time that we have on the left-hand side here. And you may be saying 10 minutes or 5 minutes, that's nothing. Like, how am I going to get stuff done? The pressure of shorter periods works both for the coaches because it forces them to coach. If you have a 20-minute period and you have a coach who likes to talk a lot, he's going to talk for 15 minutes and you're only going to get 5 minutes of actual work done. If you're a coach watching this, I'm sure you could think of someone off the top of your head that just loves to talk and doesn't actually like the players to move and do anything. When this happens, you create boring practices, you create kids that fool around in the back of lines, and you keep kids that aren't engaged on your team. Faster periods, which we found keeps kids engaged, it keeps them moving. When you create motion, you create emotion, which means kids are always moving, they're having fun. Again, we live, and I hate this term, but it's so true. It's like we live in a TikTok generation, right? Short form content is what these kids are absorbing on a daily basis. So if you don't have their mind stimulated, and we found that 10 minutes is usually the cap where their minds start to shut off and they start to wander, start to fool around, you have to keep them going. So if you want to build a program from the ground up, you need to have coaches that coach, and you got to have players that are consistently moving and they're consistently being taught new things. Those are the ground level foundations to building an effective practice plan. It are those 3 key factors. So I wanted to mention those before we actually dig into this plan, because if you don't have any of those, then none of this is going to make sense and none of this is going to matter anyways. Now, first things first, you need to designate where on the field every position is going to go. So if I'm the quarterback's coach, where is my quarterbacks always going? I should have an area of the field. If I'm a linebackers coach on defense, where are we going on the field? And you can see here, just a quick snapshot, we split the field with our middle school team. So you see that we have the 50-yard line going in, and every single coach has an area of the field. So for me, I coach the defensive line, which I'm helping out with this year, and the wide receivers. I'm also a defensive coordinator. So I have this area of the field and this area of the field whenever the whistle is blown and we transition to an offense or defensive period. So make sure your coaches know which area of the field they're going to go to, and make sure your kids know which area of the field they're going to go to. Now, when we transition periods, it's important that you use a whistle. A lot of coaches will just go, okay, that's 10 minutes. We're going to go, okay, everyone go offensive period right now. And then they wonder, and I talk to these coaches like, yeah, we can't get our guys to run. There's no energy in practice. Well, obviously, you're just telling a kid, okay, go to the next period, and then you scream at them when they're walking. Like, you have to create emotion, and the whistle will do it every single time. So what I like to do is, and this is a standard that we developed, I took this from Coach Chesney, who's down at James Madison right now, and I love it. Whenever he's rotating periods, he'll hit the whistle in a long whistle blow. He'll put his hand to his mouth and he'll yell, "Oh, Indy, D team, defensive, whatever it may be." And then all the kids need to echo it. So if I'm going O team, I'll go whistle blow, O team, and then everyone goes O team, and then everyone gets to and runs where they need to get to. So you create that emotion and that energy through everybody yelling, and then you create the motion with everybody running to where they got to be. I found it's the best way to keep kids moving, and again, to keep that emotion, to keep that energy flowing throughout practice as you transition periods. Now, as you transition, as we mentioned, you want to have one coach who's designated as the whistleblower and who's going to yell, preferably a coach that has a loud voice that can yell and get everybody all juiced up when we're rotating periods. Second thing is we want to make sure that we're filling this whole template out the night before. You're going to want to fill it out minutes before practice. Don't. And have someone who's really organized on your team to make all the coaches accountable, whether it be the head coach, the coordinators, whatever it is. I know I coach the defense. I'm making sure all my defensive coaches, hey, here's what I want to work on for the week. Make sure you have drills for it. Got it, got it, got it. And we're good to go. So again, fill it out the night before. That way you can just hit practice, get the sheet, and you're ready to roll. You're not thinking, what drill should I do now? And you're not in a panic. You have everything planned out before. And then my last little bit is just make sure you film everything you possibly can, because there's going to be some things that you're not able to see. If you have an iPad, your camera, just make sure you film as much as you can. And then that way you can review it after practice, either with your guys, or you can review it at home and just let your guys know, hey, this is how I want to fix your stance, or hey, this is how I want to adjust this going forward. This is why we're not getting our kick out block happening, because our footwork's all messed up. Like, you get a lot on film during practice. Don't just use film for games. Okay. I see a lot of coaches that just don't film practice at all. And then they wonder why things show up in the game. Like, your practice should show up in your game. That's going to be the mindset, but you got to fix everything in practice and use that as a building block. So I just wanted to cover this template first, okay? And this is just an offensive template. Some of you may be watching this, probably 90% of you watching this is going to say, Coach, I have both offense and defensive players that play the same position. And I'm with you. I'm the same way. I just want to walk through kind of what we're thinking about practice-wise, and then we'll flip over to the full team template, where if you do have guys that play both ways, how you can get everybody involved and all the coaches involved. But first thing I wanted to just talk about just the progress of this template and why I think it's so effective. So first, we're looking at run and stretch, and then any walkthrough period. I think walkthroughs are good before practice. If you don't have a pre-practice structure, I would create something, okay? One thing we've done with our offensive line, which I admittedly stole from Coach Ryan Swingle up at UConn and how those guys do it up at UConn, is they have, I believe, 8 or 9 different offensive line stations, whether it be a skip pull, a down block, pass set. They're doing everything in these 9 different stations. That way their offensive line can get warmed up. So we've completely stole it. We've made it into 5 stations that made sense for us, as well as the defensive line circuit mixed in. So every pre-practice, we always get those guys down there 15 minutes before practice starts, and they're expected to go through that circuit. That way they're all warmed up. Their hands are warmed up, legs are everything warmed up. And then by the time they hit the run and stretch, they've already done 10 pass sets, 10 bull rushes, 10 dip and swipes. They've already done all of this before we even get to our indie periods. So it's a good way to steal time is in these walkthrough pre-practice periods. Now, we put walkthrough because a lot of times that defense coordinator, my brother's the offense coordinator, we'll grab our skill guys and say, hey, let's walk through this, or hey, this didn't look right in the practice yesterday. Let's fix this beforehand. And again, we're just walking through. It's not strenuous. It's more mental than anything. Okay? So use that time to steal as many reps as you can in that walkthrough period. Next, you're going to transition into whether it be an individual period, which is indie. That's what indie stands for, and that's what we'll use going forward. Individual period just means like quarterbacks go with their quarterback coach, running backs go with their running back coach. That's what we mean by the indie period. And then you see any of these team periods that are highlighted, this is just going to be where everyone comes together and we're working formations. So just hand signals, everyone's getting lined up. A tempo period, I mean, we're moving as fast as we can. Maybe we're running a route or a passing concept, catching it, putting the ball down, and getting set to create that tempo. You see, we go back to the individual periods here, and now we get with our 2 versus 2 sets. So these black periods here are what's called transition periods. We don't have water breaks throughout our entire practice. We have water that just is around the field, and kids can grab a squirt whenever they want. If you do have water breaks, you can use these transition periods as like a quick squirt water break. The only reason we don't use water break because it puts a dent in the middle of your practice, because all the energy you've created is now just dispersed, and guys are just shooting the gab as they're getting water. We like to make sure that the energy is always consistently going. We're always consistently moving, and the coaches are always consistently involved as well. So if you have maybe an injured player or a team mom or someone that just wants to fill the water bottles up, or a trainer that does it, we just have, again, our water bottles that are just always filled. The kids can get a squirt whenever they want. As long as it doesn't interfere with the drill, we don't really care. Just get a squirt whenever you want, whenever you feel thirsty. So that's why like these transition periods can be used for either or. We use it just to get set and use that 30 seconds to make sure that we have the scout team ready. Everything's ready to go, because for those who know that it's like herding sheep when trying to get your scout team ready. And then same thing, like we're able to get special teams mixed into here as well. So if you have a punt period and a special teams coach, you can steal a couple periods by just getting them mixed in throughout the practice. That way you're not always practicing them at the end. You can mix them in, so that way guys know where to go when you do go special teams, whether it be punt or punt return. And then you see in these full team periods at the end here, you can do screens, you can do good on good, 2 minute. And then if you do any conditioning at the end, you can plan that out. And then we always like to plan out just how we meet with our position coaches. All right. So I always just like that 2 minutes at the end to just, while the head coach is talking, all the assistants get together and just say, hey, like, what do you think defensively we need to work on tomorrow? Like, this is a good way to get all the ideas from your assistant coaches. That way you can build your practice plan for tomorrow. So for us, our practice field's at the bottom of a hill. So at the end of practice, we'll all run up the hill together. We'll schedule the practice plan for the next day because guys have to get home to their families, right? Like, they're not going to sit around and BS for an hour, 2 hours. Like, we're conscious that people have kids at home. People have wives at home that they got to get home to. Like, let's get this and be as time as efficient as we possibly can. And this will help you out by blocking out that 2 minutes to meet with your coaches. Now, the bottom part of the template here is you can just see any practice notes you have. Like, you want to talk to X player about whether he was missing class, had a detention, extra conditioning for, people who got in trouble. These are just, of course, a little segment you just put any notes, any tips and reminders you want to put in there. And then the bottom here is just a good way to script out everything. Now, you wonder, like, how do you get as many plays you want in 10 minutes? And the reason is because you organize the script beforehand. So I know that my play calls that I'm going to run for this 10-minute period are all this, or Florida Dragon, Florida Crossbow, and everything that I'm going to run. So once one play's done, the next play's reloaded and we're ready to go. And the reason we want to move so fast is because we film everything. So I don't need to make live corrections right now, especially on a Monday or Tuesday practice that's early. I can film it, go back into the film room, meet with the coaches and say, hey, let's take a look at this 7-on-7 period real quick. It wasn't a good one. They caught out of the, let's say 12 plays that we have here, they caught 10 out of 12 on us. Where are we weak? Where we got to fix it? So this way you can see we're getting consistent reps. The ones are getting reps and the twos are getting reps as well. So it's not just ones getting reps. We have it blocked out because we know within that 10-minute period, we can get our first and backups reps and move in at an efficient time. So again, this is where the template comes from, and this is what we're thinking when we're going into this actual practice template. Now let's jump over to the full team template and how we rotate guys and what we're thinking about when we're building it out. Okay, so now we're into our full field template, and I actually started filling this out, but then I stopped and I was like, well, why don't I just fill it out with you? So that way you can kind of see what's kind of going on through my mind when I'm filling this out. And that way you kind of understand how to use Google Sheets, or if you use a Microsoft Excel, either one, right? Doesn't necessarily matter. So again, we added the type here. This template that we used previously didn't have the type. I recommend putting the type in. That way you can yell like we talked about. So when we start practice, we do our run and stretch. I'm sure you guys do jumping jacks or whatever you do to break it down. Everyone gets in the center and win on three, 1, 2, 3, win, whatever it is. And then a coach will blow the whistle and yell, oh, Indy. So then, like we talked about, everyone knows where to get to on the field. And then we're going to go after 5 minutes. Again, whistle blows, D Indy. Everyone screams D Indy. And then everyone gets to where they need to. Same with team. We're just thinking we're getting together as a team. And then if we need to break off, we need to break them off. But everyone knows in our team period, when we go team, we're all meeting on the 30-yard line. Everyone's going there. So when we go team, everyone's running to the 30, and then we'll say, hey, offensive line, you're down the corner. You're doing your bull rush intro. That way you know how to fit up a bull rush. Offensive line goes. Good. Next, 7-on-7, same thing. The offensive line knows that they're working one-on-one when we go 7-on-7. Now we go back to D&D. Now you may be thinking, Chris, what are you doing? Like, why are you going back and forth? And again, I got this from Coach Chesney. I thought this was such an awesome idea. Is think about a game. A game goes from first down, second down, interception. Defense got to go on the field. Fumble might happen. Offense is back on the field. You may score a 70-yard touchdown, kickoffs on the field. You consistently need to be on your toes, ready for the next thing. I think if you just have a practice structure that goes O-N-D, O-7-on-7, team, D&D, D7-on-7, team. Like, the kids know what's coming. They're expecting. If I'm a scout team player and I know every defensive team, I'm going to get my butt kicked. I'm going to dread that period. Okay, in about 20 minutes, I got to get my butt kicked by this guy. Like, there's no anticipation or hype for practice. It's the same monotonous thing every single day. This will allow you to, hey, we're going O-Indy and then we're going to D-Indy. So now you got to flip your brain and you can still get that work. And again, as a coach, you're not running offense on Tuesdays, defense on Wednesdays. Again, I'm trying to consistently keep these guys stimulated. And how do I do so? By bouncing around back and forth. So that's why we go from O-N-D to D-N-D to here, we're going to go O-Team. Okay, so that way they know it's an offensive period. And then this would be a D7-on-7. So now it's a defensive focus period as we're going through. D-N-D. Combo is a defensive period for us. So let me fix this here. This is actually supposed to be white because it's going to be a defensive period. So I'm just going to go in here and hit the reset button. So I'll make it white. Okay. So any of our defensive periods are in white. Any offensive periods are in yellow. Okay, so again, screen period, just yell screen. We all know we're meeting on the 30. And then from here, we're going to have 3 different offenses running screens. If you can afford to get your first team up and your second team up, first team's going to be running screen, second team's running the same screen. Okay? And then if you have a third group, run the third group. So we consistently are getting all of our screens in. This period here, our compete period, is all we're going to do is we're going to blow the whistle. We're going to scream compete. And everyone's going to get to the center of the field. We usually do a board drill, a one-on-one. We do something that's fun and competitive, a 5-10-5. Who can race to recover the fumble? Anything. Just a fun period to break up the middle of practice and compete before we get back to the nitty-gritty stuff of what we're doing. So again, we've run a D&D period, run an OND period. And then from here, we can start to get into our team stuff. So again, we can go back to our O team and then we just drag all of this and we just make it, this is going to be a inside run period. So we're just going to tag this as inside run. If we're not doing an offensive 7-on-7 this day, which it doesn't look like we aren't, we can call this inside run period. And then these are all the calls that we're going to run with our inside run. So if we're going to go deuces, dagger, heavy, that's going to be our run play to the heavy side, and we're just going to continually fill this out. So now we go our inside run period. Again, we're thinking we have everything scripted out, both offensively and defensively. So what we'll do here, especially just because this is brand new, is I'll just copy this, and we'll run this down here. So here's our inside run. So this is going to be O inside run, and then this will be our D inside run if we are running. I think I called it a combo above. So we're going to go D combo period. And these are all my calls I want for the D combo. And then same thing here. I'm just going to copy and I'm just going to paste. And then this will be, all of our defense stuff will be at the bottom. And then all of our offensive calls will be at the top. So again, you can print this out into one sheet. That way every coach has it and they know what period they're going through. So when you have your coaches look at this thing and fill this thing out, have them go in and fill out these periods. So, hey, I'm giving you 2 defensive indie periods as labeled here. That means you have to come up with 2 defensive individual periods. That way, when we go defensive backs, you know what you're doing. I don't have to sit there and go, okay, you're going to put a bag down here, a bag down here, a bag down here, and you're going to run over. And then the coach is like, oh, okay, and trying to remember everything, right? Let him come up with his own drills. Just tell him the theme. Hey, I want to work stock blocking. Here's a database of drills, which I'm going to shamelessly plug right now. Inside of Victory Pro, we have an entire database of drills if you are a coach that is looking for more drills. But that's what you do. If they're going on the internet, Twitter, Facebook, whatever it is, to find these drills, just make sure they have a catalog and a database of drills that they can just go work these drills. That way we're building these skills as the year goes on. And again, as we did with the example template, I'm not going to bore you and walk you through the entire thing, but that's kind of what we're thinking when we're starting to build this practice template, is being able to yell these periods, transition these guys to how we want them, and then be able to make sure that every little thing is structured. You have a coach running the whistle and the kids are always moving. So we found, again, that's the best way to make sure your practice is running fluently. And I know this video is getting a little bit long, but I really wanted to cover everything and to make sure like this is how you get 10 plus periods within your practice, not just running 4 periods in practice. Kids are standing around picking dandelions the entire time. Get them moving, create energy, create emotion. And the way you do that is by keeping them moving with the whistle and also keeping your coaches engaged by giving them assignments. So again, if you are looking for this template, we're going to put it in the description below. Feel free to download it. Let me know your thoughts or anything you want to add to it, or if you have any questions. Again, if you want more drills, check out Victory Pro. We have an entire database there for coaches. It's going to help you improve your coaching game as well as your staff and improve them just by hitting a simple button. So thanks for watching. Again, if you do have any questions, let me know, and we'll see you next time.